Recording has started. Let's get this going. So I mentioned the zeros. For those of you watching the recording, contact me. A couple of you already have. There's not too many. There's only like out of all the assignments, I think I only see like about 8 zeros so far, so that's not bad. More movies, more videos, not movies. More videos are on the way. I'll start redoing the challenges and posting a video about the challenges at the end of the lesson or towards the end of the lesson. And then today we'll start by kicking off lesson 2. I'll redo the final lab. How's that sound? Won't take long, about 5-10 minutes. And then you'll see where you should be at or around. But if you don't get it, don't fret, but you should be around this skill set and this lesson. I've seen a lot of this time around. Input float under your height, all this garbage. If you're not going to compare a float to a float, don't even bother. Just get an integer. And learn how to control your user. What do I mean by that? Don't give them the opportunity to enter a float or Tim or a string. Tell them in the directions. Tell them straight up. Be like, hey, that's cool and all, but we're not going to do that. You're going to enter your height in the roundest inch or the tallest inch. Whole numbers. Tell the user that. Tell them what you want. And they'll be like, oh, okay. And the user will enter that. If you don't give them a chance to ask why or pontificate or think, you remove all that from them. You direct them exactly what you need. And 9 times out of 10, you'll get it. So let's take a look at what we got to do here. Python Rocks Amusement Park, tiered admission policy, height of the guest, cost of the ticket. Many people did not use any variables except for the user input. Bad for business. I'll tell you why that's bad for business. If you don't use any variables and you just print out the tier and the dollar amount, here's what's going to happen. Once this is a real program and someone goes, oh, by the way, we're changing our tier names and how much they cost. Now you have to go through every line of code and make sure you type it in verbatim as opposed to just going to each variable and just change the variable. And then the whole code's going to change. Variables are there to help you. Just because these are small scripts, don't think that you don't need variables. They are extremely powerful, right? So you got different, and I saw a couple of people use dictionaries again, and it failed miserably. A couple of people use 2 lists. It's okay, but if you use 2 lists, you might as well use 1 dictionary. But we haven't learned those yet. So don't be in a rush to learn a new skill. Master the ones that are available that week in that lesson and the lessons prior. It'll make sense if you master what you've learned. Trust me. Dictionaries will be easy when we come to them, right? So let's take a look at this. Okay, Python Rocks Amusement Park. Cool. Has a tiered admission policy. Okay, I'm going to steal this. Print, right? Just take what you need. I like this sort of. Let's see, Python Rocks Amusement Park. Welcome to the Python Rocks Amusement Park. /n. We have a tiered admission policy. You will be asked for your height. Right? Good enough. Save. We'll save this. Yeah, it's fine. We'll do the 2252 underscore class underscore lesson 02 gr lab.py. Perfect. Cool. Okay, like this, right? We got that. Cool. Input, enter your height. Get rid of this. If you're going to deal with integers, deal with integers. Tell the user, enter your height in inches. Whole numbers only. Be descriptive. Whole numbers? Is whole numbers right, or is it whole number like W?
It's with a W.
I know.
Oh.
This is one of those days. It's funny. So, okay. So we're going to get user input. We got our print statement. It should sort of feel like something now. Now we got this if stuff. 30 inches or more, but less than 36. So you have this in your head. Now you're like, okay, user in, you can say, okay, less than 30. And then if this is true, you're going to be a guppy and you're free, right? Well, let's just get this out of the way. Let's just grab this. You can grab each one of these if you want and just make them what they are. Like, call on tiers, call them what they are. You can call on guest tier name. You can go tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Make your variables. Don't be afraid of them. T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, right? Call them tiers if you want. That's fine. And just go equal guppy. Equal guppy. Why waste your time to do this? Well, A, you're not wasting your time because you're saving yourself in the future from coming back in here and being able to update your code relatively quickly. B, you're not writing a paper. You're not writing print this statement, print this statement, print this statement. That's not coding. That's BS writing a Word document, right? You want to use the code. You want to use what Python has to offer. And if they offer variables and ways to save yourself time in the future, I suggest you take advantage of them, right? And this is cool. Now you can put like a comma on the cost in here if you want, or you could put like T1 cost and then list all the costs. Pretty simple. Just do this. And this is before we know anything like, what do you call it? This is before we know anything like lists or dictionaries, right? We're not there yet. And then this is just, now you could just do full on integers, right? You don't need this at all. You just say free. Well, this is a string, free. Or you can say $0. You could say 0. We'll see how this works out. If we don't like it, we can change it. 2, 5, what is it? 8. 8 and then 10. Cool. Now you could go in here and format them to money. You can. Very true, good point. If it were less than or equal to 30, it would have been the polywog tier, I think. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, some people didn't do the logic properly, and when you type in 30, it said free. Well, that's not the case. 30 inches or more, but less than is $2. So you really have to watch your logic on this, right? And now also with this, you could have, okay, print, format, and then what do we want to do here? What are we here? Under 30, what are you? Your tier is free, your tier is a guppy. So then you could do things like this, like your tier is open close parentheses. Whoa, open close curly braces, and just T1, right? And your cost is, and we can come back in here and clean this money up, and we will, right? And then we'll throw it T1 cost. Cool. Let's see, right? Cool. Now we can start with this. Now the awesome thing about this is you can trash all this. Grab this. How many we got? We got how many tiers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. So we could sort of use this and just do elif. And I do this different every time. You could do whatever you want, but I like changing it up a little bit. Let's say else. Go spell it right. So now, okay, user in under 30. We know what's up. Now, here's the thing. 30 inches or more, but less than 36. Could you just say less than 36? Could you?
Yeah, because you're already evaluating beforehand. I didn't do this in mine. I did it the long way, but you are right where it's if you put in 32, uh,
It
yeah,
goes. Sorry.
no, you're good. I'm still like processing my thought.
Yeah, I hear
I
you.
was gonna say it goes top down, so it
Well,
would.
if I did it top down, and we can go back and do it backwards too.
Wait, what do you mean if you did it top down?
Well, so humans, they like to do things from 0 to 100, right? What if you did this if greater than 48, you're an adventurer? What if that was your first statement?
I see.
So there's literally an infinite way around to code these, but there's really not at the level we're at. There's only like maybe 8 or 10 different ways you could really script this at the level we're at, in theory, right? So, well, you want to include greater than or equal to 31? No, because you want to grab that 30, and you'll see the logic here in a second. Right? Let me put something in here, because we could really trick this out with a couple little things, right? So we have our variables for our tiers, we have our variables for our cost. I didn't put any money in, but we'll figure out. We'll talk about that together on how to format that. It's going back to lesson 1 and lesson 2 and digging it up and thinking about it. Let's see if this thing works. Let's hit F5. Let's pull it over. Cool. I have a little welcome to Python Rocks Amusement Park. We have a tiered admission policy. You'll be asked for your height. Please enter the height in inches, whole numbers only. When I say 30 and hit enter, I am $2. I'm a polywog. Right? Here's what happens. If 30 less than 30, false. If 30 less than 36, true. You're a polywog. Your cost is $2. Pretty cool. Does that make sense? What if I was 38? Is that true? 38, apprentice. Yep, sure is. What if I was 42? Works like a boss. You're explorer. What if I was 48? The logic. Now, this is how Python operates. This is why I'm going to say it like this, right? If 48 less than 30, false. If 48 less than 36, false. If 48 less than 42, false. If 48 less than 48, false. Else. There you go. You're an adventurer, your cost is $10. That's exactly what we got. It could be this simple. Now, you could take this literally and say, if less than 30, okay. And then you could write if user in is equal to 30 or less than 36. That's the same thing, right? I mean, if I hit 30, what would happen? I'm still a polywog. But logically, if you say it out loud, you don't even need this, right? Is it wrong? No. Because Python actually goes, if 30 less than 30, false. If 30 equal to 30, true, print. That's all it does. And then it's down here. It's where it's waiting right here on to keep going, right? Or to move on with the script. So certain things you may need ORs for. If it's less than 36, you're going to catch it. But here's the thing. Are you instructed to code absolutes? No. Absolutes meaning that you're looking for 30 specifically. No, you're looking for a range of numbers. Well, what covers a range? Well, this logic covers a range. That's pretty solid. But many of you did OR. Beautiful, not mad. it made sense when we were mixing colors because we had two items. We had a primary 1, a primary 2, red and blue, but they could also be blue or red, primary 1, primary 2. So we did and an or. This is even simpler than your group lab. And that's what kind of threw some folks off but it wasn't wrong, and I didn't take off points or misgrade, because the logic does work out. It works out fine. I saw very little variables, very little. Now, how do we want to format this?
Using the format parameter. So type in format, put it in parentheses, and then after you would do quotations dot 2f money sign dot 2f. So it would be 5.00 money sign or money sign 5.00.
So you're saying format like this? Something like that, and then what?
Quotation dot or money sign dot 2f and then quotations. It doesn't really work with your f in the beginning, but if you were to take the f off and remove put a comma after that. Yeah, something like that.
Something like that? Under 30. Caught me. Ooh, didn't like it. What happened here? Invalid format parameter. Let's remove that for now. What else is wrong with this? Anything?
Does it need like the colon, semicolon?
Where at? Nah, it just didn't
Uh,
like the dollar sign. Where would I add the dollar sign if I was going to format something?
Next to the F?
Which, on this side?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Would it be before the parentheses? Well, I don't know.
Can you
Yeah.
format money? Does it? Did I put it in? Did I put them in the announcements? I don't remember if I did or not.
It was definitely in the reading. I'm gonna have to pull it up, or if you're gonna pull it up faster.
I don't know. I may have not have. Okay, so here's a plus sign. The 2 decimal places with a sign. You see that? So it's colon, a sign, dot, then something, right? Do you see the money anywhere? Is the money in here? Let's try something like that. Colon something. So where's that colon at? Curly braces. 2 dot. Let's do colon. Was this it? I don't know. See, even I'm rusty with formatting too. So
It was inside the
Thank you, man.
quotation.
It was after the dot, the colon.
So where at? Walk me from here. Right here.
After one over to the left. Yeah.
Gotcha. 29. Uh-oh, doesn't like that still. What's going on? What's
You
this?
can
The
you can
money
just put it
sign
after the is.
You
Wait.
could,
Oh,
but what you're gonna get is a space, right? So you got that space there, which you will see on a lot of receipts because a lot of programmers are lazy and they don't butter it up, right? Which is going to bother you the rest of your life. Now, every time you look at a receipt, what's the proper way? Do we want to open the book? Do we want to pivot, open the book? Do we want to consult Google?
I'm currently looking.
Separator?
What if
Separator, you could do it with SEP too. But can you use format for money? Like that's the big kicker, right? Like that's the question of the hour is
So
yeah.
I'm looking at W3 schools and I don't see a money sign in the formatting type. I don't think so. Hold on.
Common string operations. Index and symbols. Little string, Unicode, formatting. Those are the top ones. Let's see what's down here. Using F strings. I might want to check that out too. It might be cool. Right. So these are just strings, punctuation, of course, this is part of the string thing. Classic formatter, formatted
So-
string, argument quarks. Yeah.
Someone said to use the locale module, but
So let's not attempt to use a new module.
yeah, I
because,
know.
Yeah, I mean, we can because there's a punctuation module, there's a money module, there's all different types of stuff out there to help people who don't read the material, who a lot of modules you're going to find just repackage Python code and make it a simpler command. They're really doing the same thing under the hood. It's kind of funny. But since a lot of folks don't take the time to hunt it down, and what's faster, loading a module to do something or doing something natively? I'm going to say doing it natively, right?
Oh no, for sure, yeah.
In the book, it doesn't specifically say how to do it with money. It just says use the separator and do it that way.
Yeah, use SEP, right? Which is where we're sort of heading, right? Because what's going to happen here is your default for print, you could do comma SEP. We all know it's a space. Well, if we make our money the last thing, and we say separate with $1, and we save this and hit F5, and I say 29 again, look at that. It removes the space, it puts it right next to it, but now we have to remember to put the space right there. So now that looks pretty clean. Like, that looks pretty good. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it looks good, but I now have a question of can you do it with the F in the front, with the format in the front?
What do we got here? So I found this online currency string. There we go. So you notice how it has the quotes in front. Now, are we talking format? Yeah, this is the weird thing. So number string. So now the way that formats sometimes, this is kind of an old school, it still works, so this is the thing, right? So we'll do this on the next line. So we're going to do exactly what you have here. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to cut it right from your thing, and we're going to talk about it. Where was this? Format. Okay, I'm just going to dump it here. And I'm just going to remove this. Let's talk about this, right? Let's remove the F. Let's do our little comma right here. And now we have the type that we're going to format, how we're going to format, right? We're going to call in the format command, and then we're going to send it our variable. Let's see if Python gets bad. Invalid syntax. Doesn't like that literal syntax, right? So what about this syntax doesn't it like? If I remove this and remove this and then go down to it, doesn't look right at all, right? Like this doesn't feel right. It's not catching the format quote. So what's the proper way to do this? Remember what I said, output is the most difficult thing in any programming language. Mastering how you want to output stuff. This looks about right. This like says, hey, I'm this thing. I want to format this. I want to put it out this way, but now I'm missing a quote. That doesn't look right at all. It starts to get really messy, doesn't it? Well, that looks better. Does it? That looks sort of better. Python looks like it should work. Ah, invalid decimal literal again.
Next to the format, I think.
Well, can you tuck it in your, like, where do you want this in the string, right? You have currency string equals. So you have a variable equally to format style, and then your number underscore string is the variable that you want to define the formatting to, right? In the chat, is that right? This is how you want it formatted. Then you're going to format and you're going to do this. Well, what if you just cut that out, got rid of this? Now format's purple. That means that it's a function, it's ready to rock and roll, right? But then you have this, you're right back to where we were, right? Or would this work? Nope, invalid decimal literal. Well, what does invalid decimal literal mean? You got that to work? Something like total cost. Yeah, well, that's where we're at right now, right? Very similar. Now, do we need just something as simple as this? Ah, it doesn't like that syntax. What's going on here with this little? You're going to beat yourself up trying to figure this out. It is very confusing. I do this, honestly. Now, if we go back to the announcements and we look at this one right here, it says : +(2). Well, that looks like it should work, doesn't it? $+2F. So let's just take a look at this. And we got our colon, $, right? Let me type that in. Let's go back and look at it. So it's colon, the sign you want, the period, and 2F. Sign you want, period, and 2F. That's all it has. It doesn't have any quotes, nothing fancy. But will that work? Let's give it a try. Doesn't like that invalid decimal literal. So what you're reading is a Python 2.7 formatting guide. And this style mentioned in chat may be deprecated. So how do we go about finding out what's right? Well, let's go back to this.
Wait, what do you mean it may be deprecated?
Not everything in Python 2.7 carried over to Python 3.x. So let's look for Python format at python.org. Input, output, file format, string conversions. Well, where's this format? Well, let's try to get self-help first. All right, let's just do help on format. And let's see what it says here. Okay, a value, a format specification, the return value dot format specification, format specifications to an empty string, seed format specification, mini language section, help formatting. Look at this. So within help, it tells you how to get more help. Very interesting. 700 lines of more help. And now we start looking at formatting command and all the fun stuff it has to offer. It doesn't know what money is. This is just a format, a string command. It has nothing to do. It doesn't say format integer, doesn't say format money. It just says format, right? So let's make this big. Let's read this in case we miss anything off the screen. Identifier plus a digit, attribute name, digit plus, RS conversion. Now you see why people use other modules, because they're like, man, this is difficult. What if you used F in the beginning with $, curly braces, and that may work, but it's still not using format to add the $sign. Well, what if you just simply can't? Harold's clever. Holly and her name. We're not seeing any $signs anywhere, are we? Not yet. Mini language. Okay, so it's a mini language itself. The format command is indeed a mini language, just like regex. They're mini tiny programs within Python that take care of special things, much like formatting. You could spend your lifetime attempting to do this. Longitude, latitude, all this cool stuff has all these accessing arguments. You notice it doesn't have a simple one for money yet. Why do you think that is? Kind of percentage? Why do you think it doesn't have a simple one for money?
No idea.
Money, the money symbol is I don't know. Money symbol is a string mixed with an integer. I don't know.
Oh, I want to hear this.
I was about to say, or the fact that the US dollar isn't universal.
Bingo.
Yeah.
You got it. So maybe perhaps the person that wrote format wasn't American and they know nothing about American money. Maybe that symbol doesn't even exist to them. It's just on their keyboard, or maybe not even on their keyboard, right? So some of the best ways to do it are to use SEP or call out a variable called $sign and just throw the $sign in there and print your variable. Like, in other words, you could finagle however you want it to look and make it feel like it. Python has the tools to do it. Don't be mad at Python because it doesn't understand the concept of American money. It allows you to format your integers however you want, and whatever symbol you choose to put in front of it is up to you. So it may understand positive and negative. The options are what make me enjoy this. Yeah, exactly. You could do whatever you want, right? And the beautiful thing is there's no one right way to do it. That's also what I wanted to show you on how to do this. But once you get it to something that you like and you enjoy and you understand how to use it, it's as simple as just doing this, right? It literally is cut and paste now. Boom. Boom. I messed that one up. I'm missing the quotes. Why did I remove the quotes? But you see what I mean here. It's like not everything's perfect, blah, 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 and be okay with that. Learn to be all right with what you know. And if it works, someone will come and show you the proper way how to format this. Someone will show you 10,000 different proper ways to format it. You notice I keep using the word proper. I never said correct. The correct one is the one that comes out and matches your requirements and doesn't cause any debugging static or any errors. Now we should be good across the board, right? Yeah, good to go. Oh, what happened there? I didn't change any of my tier costs. But it's not bad, right? This is okay. This is where we're at. This is where I feel that we're at. We're using variables, we're using if statements, else. We're using the prints, we're using the format, we're using a lot of things we covered up until now with lesson 1 and lesson 2. So can't be mad. It looks good. What if there are more people in your party? What if there are 4 people going to the amusement park? How could we code this to make it work? Think about that, right? Don't answer me yet, because this week's lesson is
Loops.
epic. There we go. 4 loops. So now we're going to iterators and generators. Generators create something. Iterators iterate through a sequence, a loop, right? So now we have all this fun stuff. We can read the book about what it does and how it works and the for loops and while loops. Let's just get the for and while loop out of the way. When do you use a while loop, and when do you use a for loop?
I think textbook definition is while loops are used for indefinite and for loops are used for definite responses.
I hate that, but I'll take it. Right? It's in a book, so it must be right. While a condition is met, this part of the script will run. When the condition is no longer met, it should stop. What does that?
An if statement.
No. If checks once if a condition is met and then performs a task or doesn't. While this condition is met, keep going. If I were to tell you to do push-ups, while I have energy, I'm going to do push-ups. When I run out of energy, I'm not doing any more push-ups. Check this out. What if I told you do 10 push-ups? For my first push-up from 10, push-up. For my second push-up in 10, push-up. For my third push-up, fourth push-up, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. For my 10th of 10, push-up, done. For loops, you have a range, an amount that you could iterate through. Don't necessarily think of it as an amount. Think of it as objects. Because you could write a for loop that says, for each computer in my list of computers, ping it. You can also say, while this machine is on, you have to test if it's on, ping it. So continuous ping. Two very different logic types, two very different outcomes. I never use while loops because they're dumb. Well, because I don't use while loops, they're not dumb. But I don't use while loops because I'm usually dealing with a finite group of objects that I need to check. So a for loop fits perfect, right? For each object in my group of objects, do this. A while loop is like something like a manufacturing floor would use. While this fermenter has beer in it, empty into cans. While the canner's running, while there's a can that trips the sensor for a light, smash a lid on it. Here's a stack of lids. While I have lids to put on, keep moving the line. If one of those things breaks, the line will stop. Whiles, there's a place for them. I just don't like them and don't use them. Does that make sense? While true is the worst thing ever. That's lazy BS scripted programmer, while true. Well, while true. Well, guess when is that not true? You have to use a break then. So you're purposely breaking your logic because you don't know how to solve your problem from the beginning. Garbage. Tons of early programmers do it. Tons of professional programmers do it. You're asking for trouble because what if your break statement never fires? Then it's constantly looping. Or it's continuing that process and never hitting your break. That's garbage programming. While true is trash. And it's the worst thing ever. Give myself a thumbs down for that. But I mean, people use it. I never will. I never will. But let's talk about this, right? While loop, for calc. Did everybody understand the if I told you to do push-ups, while I tell you to do push-ups, you're going to keep doing them. And the minute you run out of energy, you're done. That's way different from do 10 push-ups, right? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're done.
Yeah, one's definite and one's indefinite.
Well, not even, because while is not indefinite, because the minute you could do 80 push-ups and run out of energy and then you're done, you're going to quit. Right?
Yeah, I guess the word indefinite isn't the word I want to use. It's just like unknown. Like
There you go.
we don't know how many push-ups we're gonna do.
And
So
in
while-
walks while true, because while true fits your unknown motif. That's why people use it. Look, people are going to use it. I'm mad at it. It's bad logic. It's better to go, while this condition is met, perform this, and then have your code trip that condition so it's not met anymore. You'll see what I mean in a couple minutes. But that's where this is going. Could we turn this into, well, something else? This is good for lesson 2, right? Could we take the step further? Could we ask, well, what do we have to do first? We have to ask how many in party, right? Then we have to loop question of height for each guest in party. Then we have to keep running total of costs and tiers. Then we have to present user with output. What's this? Olivia did something. Let's see. Can't see that, so small. Okay. La 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 la. Wow. Maximum greater than 1. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, I'm not mad at that. Well, oh, then you put the nested while statement. Well, let's see today. Final if user response is yes. Yeah. Oh, see, but then you break it, right? You got that break in there. So continue. I mean, it's fine. That's what they're designed to do. I just don't like, I'd rather have my logic break the code as opposed to me manually breaking it. Does that make sense?
Can you repeat that one more time?
I'd rather have my code be forced to break itself with logic as opposed to manually breaking my program. Like, you don't need that other choice. Let me double check, click that again. Like, you have your if user response is not equal to Y, print, thank you for playing, please come again, break. Why not in your save for your saying for today, blah, 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 saying random, would you like another inspirational quote? Yes or no? Why don't you break? Why don't you do that? No. Okay, end. If no, end, why continue? You don't even need that whole bottom section. You get what I mean? You could nest that logic somewhere else and have your logic actually control the whole output. You could change user response. Would you like another inspirational saying? Yes or no? No. Guess what happens? No turns into maximum now equals 0. So then your while loop would go while 0 greater than 1 false, and it would exit itself.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a cleaner design because you're actually having while maximum number be changed to a 0, and then that's false. And because your loop, the while actually goes while this, while this, while this, while this. Well, right here, if your logic changed the number, I'll show you. We'll get into it. It'll be a lot more clear than what I'm saying. But just keep this in your back of your mind that you could turn this into something really cool. You could say, welcome to the, so-and-so party. How many children under 30 inches do you have? Or how many people do you have under 30 inches? Boom, instantly remove them from your logic because they're going to be free, but keep them in the total. And then you can say, how many people in your party total? 7. How many are under 30 inches? 4. Okay, 3 guests are over this tall, so there's 2 parents and a grandparent, hypothetically. And then you can instantly go, how tall are you? How tall are you? How tall are you? Keep those costs, add them together, give them their tiers and their cost per each, and a total on a receipt. Pretty cool, right? I think it's cool. But we're going to come back to this. I'm going to leave this up. Right? Totally going to come back to it. But that's enough for lesson 2. We've segued into lesson 3, and now we're going to mess with some cool things in lesson 3. But before we dive into it, let me see. I have this one thing. My lesson 3. Where's my template here? So I think this is, before we dive into whiles or anything, I have one for 2. Let me see this. Blah, 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 blah. That's nothing new. That's me going over something from last week. I guess we could tear. What do you folks want to strap on for? Do you want to get ready to do while loops or for loops first? Because that matters. I need to prepare you cognitively for which one we're going to focus on. Which one would you like to tackle first? While? Let's do whiles. While loops aren't that bad. I just don't use them, right? But we'll go right to it. While loop, open. So you're going to see a different format here real quick. And you're going to go like, oh, wow. So put that here, put this here, move that. Let's check this out. Let me remove this. Boop, we're good. Save, F5. Let's start a fresh shell so it all works fine and dandy and reads up top and it makes sense. Let's take a look at this while loop. Counter equals 3. Variable outside in global space. That means that while can use it. While 3 is greater than 0, print counting down 3, 3 minus 1 stored back in counter. While 2 less than 0, print counting down 2. 2 minus 1 stored back in counter is 1. While 1 greater than 0, print counting down 1. 1 minus 1 stored back in counter is 0. While 0, done. Did you get that? Talk to me.
Yes.
This is better than while true with a break. This passes counter back up to the loop, and eventually your logic, by removing 1 from 3, while 0 greater than 0, false, Python goes down to the next line. It breaks out of your loop. That is controlling a loop with logic. One may argue that break is logic. It is. I only use break if I think I exhausted all my logical ways of solving the loop. And then at the very end, my last else statement is else break. Hopefully I never hit my else, right? But potentially there may be something I haven't thought of yet that could cause that loop to go on forever. I could have 3, I could have 100 if-else statements, and there could be one thing I didn't think of. So yeah, toss a break in there. Maybe. I wouldn't, but I'd sit there and beat myself up till I got it. But this is, while this condition is met, perform this task. I'm going to say that one more time. While this condition is met, perform this task. The minute this condition is not met, Python goes right here and waits the next, it's ready for the next command. Not too bad, right? Whiles don't see that bad. Let's take a look right here. Counter equals 0. I messed this up. Let's go right here. Counter equals 0. While 0 greater than 0, what do you think is going to happen?
It will either do it once or never do it at all.
Why would it do it once or never do it at all?
Oh, it's been so long.
You got it, Logan. Think about it. While 0 greater than 0. That's never true.
Yeah, it's not true at all.
So that's what happens. Nothing. Because we literally said, while 0 greater than 0, boop, done. That condition was never met. So the cursor sits right there and Python is over. It's game over. Didn't do anything. Pretty funny. Now, this gets bad. If I say counter is 3 or 10 or anything greater than 0, what do you think's going to happen?
It's gonna keep printing over and over.
Yeah, an endless loop. No fun. Eventually, it will fill up your memory allotted by Python. Python will then go over, it may or may not bleed over into your page file, then crash your system. Not cool, right? That's why while loops smell. But let's go back to that. While this condition is met, this will happen. But if this condition is not met, it won't happen. Perfect. That operated as designed. Let's take a look here. Counter equals 0. While 1. Print executes at least once. If not 0, break. How do you deal with memory issues if you're running a complex code then? Test your code and don't make it complex. Make it clean. Test your code some more. Make it cleaner. Think of it this way. What are you trying to accomplish with your complex code, and how memory intensive is it? Because in order to crash a system with Python, you need to do more than 10 million things a second. Or store those 10 million things in RAM and allow how much space is deviated for Python to run before it fills up and then kills your system. Think of that. So it varies with every script you write, and it varies on every machine you run it on too. Some machines have more horsepower and can take a beating, and it may not crash today or tomorrow, but in 96 hours it will. And I've seen that before too. Bad code that runs awesome for 2 days. But check this out. Counter equals 0 while 1. That's like saying while what? What does 1 equal again?
True.
Is it true? Oh,
Yep, 1 is equal to true. So that's just as bad as writing while true. So while true, print executes at least once. If not, counter. If not 0, break. If not 0, break. What does that mean? Well, that's what it means. If not counter. If not 0. If not 0. Well, it's not 0 because it's 1. Well, we're not passing 1 down here. We're saying if not 0. Why does break execute? Think of that if not 0 statement. We're not comparing it to anything. We're saying if not 0. Well, it is 0.
is it saying 0 as in false?
Ah, there you go.
Or is it? Or does it
Well,
see it as false?
What if we
sure.
say not 0? Whoa. That's what that's doing. If true, break. Because the literal not 0 gives you true. So this condition is met. And break fires.
That's wild.
Totally. And you're going to see a lot of programmers use logic like this, which is fine. It's called thinking programmatically. If your goal, but if you have counter and it's set to 0 and it's always going to be 0, then what's the point? What if I change it to 60? Or is the point not to be an integer? Is the point to be true or false? Or is it going to run 60 times? Well, it's always going to run because we're not removing anything from 60. So we created an ongoing loop again. There's nothing dealing with the value of 60, making it go down to 0. So it's going to be an endless loop. This statement is just like saying counter equals false or true. False, right? 0 is false. So when we say if not false, well, that's true, and then this will fire. Tricky logic, I understand. Most of you don't think this way yet. Some of you do. Because some of you have prior experience. And when would I use this? Only if I wanted to confuse somebody. My code would be more clean. I would not use this because you won't catch me use while loops. Just don't do it. I just don't need it. But that's just me. But that one is a great example of what you could do with it, right? Let's take a look at this one. So we're going to move into a list here. 2 objects in my list. My list names has 2 objects, Zach and Liam. While names, print names.pop. Pop removes the last object from the list is going. So in theory, this should say, while names, print names Liam, print name Zach, the list is empty, it won't print anymore. Right? Oh, gotta save it. And that's exactly what happened. This said, while names, okay, while names is true, well, names has something in it, so it's positive, so it's true. Print names pop, well, this right here calls on this object, which is in the 1 indice, because it starts counting at 0. Zach is in 0, Liam is in 1. Names pop without anything, it will grab the last object. Now that, when it pops it removes it. So now Zach is just left in names. And he says, while names, yes, there's still Zach in there. Print names pop Zach is going. And then it goes, while names, there's nothing in it, I'm done. Pretty cool, right? And we could test that by just saying print names. And what happens here is pop removes Liam, prints Liam, prints our names. We did remove Liam from the list. Then the next iteration removes Zach, prints it, prints our empty list, and then it breaks because there's no more objects in our list to while. Pretty cool, right? Yeah, super cool. Awesome. Now check this out. This is going to bend your mind with 1s and 0s. I do not mean to do this. Let's put your hat on, right? Results 1, 0, 1. How many objects processed? Well, in theory, there should be 3. How many passed? Well, what are we seeing is true? What are we saying is true? What do we want to pass? So while there's objects in my results, process plus 1, so every object will add 1 to processed, and then it'll remove that object. So we'll start from the end again. If not 1, well, what do we say 1 is again?
True.
1 is equal to true. So if not true, continue. And then when it continues, it'll add 1 to pass. Else, it'll print everything out. Let's take a look at what this does. So now, at the end of the day, it simply goes, while results processed 1, changes processed to 1. Result equals results popped, so it grabs the 1. If not true, right? So what is if not true? If not true, well, that's false because it is, and it adds 1 to past. Then it goes while results processed plus 1. This changes from 1 to a 2. Is now pops out 0 into result. If not false. If not false is true, continue. Pass plus 1. Well, it never hits pass plus 1. So 0 goes if not true, or if not false. I keep saying that. If not false, which is true, continue, never touches past, while results 1, process plus 1, this turns into a 3 now, pops out the last item. If not true, which is false, pass plus 1. In other words, every time there's a 1, it'll add 1 to past. So this is a way to test if something is true or false. If you have 10,000 questions in a survey, you can go process past. You could use this in machine logic for controlling a conveyor belt. You could use this in a lot of different ways.
I have a question. Maybe I'm just
Yes.
not understanding. It says, if not true, continue. Well, 0 wouldn't have fell under that not true condition, right? So the program would have stopped, or
Well, if not, what's 0 equal?
0, right?
What's 0 equal though when you logically test it like that?
False.
This is saying, so let's just say this out loud. If false, well, if false, then continue wouldn't fire. But now I'm saying if not false.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're doing the opposite of the not, opposite of the true, false and true. It's a mind bender. Sometimes this type of mind bending logic is faster to get to your output and your proper goal at the end state than to check everything. It's a programmatic way of thinking. You'll get there. Don't worry. The more you're exposed to weird things like this, and the more we talk about it over time, this may be your go-to logic over time. You might go, hey, I'm going to write it this way. Why? It's faster. How do you know it's faster? Trust me. Not nodding is faster than truing. What does that mean? Not's faster than true? Well, maybe it might not be. Maybe a not true is faster than a true or false true. So it depends on your scenario and what you're trying to code. These are just examples. They're very extreme examples. But I'm going to go back to the first one because we need to. Because as simple as it could be is as simple as it could be. While 3 greater than 0, countdown 3, counter -1, 2. While 2, while 1, done. I'm done. Awesome. Break is there if you need it, but I don't think you will if you write your code right. So that's while. Everybody cool with it for now? Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, before we dive into for loops, you need to know about for loop's best friend. For loop has a best friend called range. Range is its best buddy. It's right in front of me. So what's a range? We're going to talk about what a range is really simply. I'm going to say run Python shell. I'm going to close this. I'm going to run a new one. And we're just going to do a help on range real quick because I think it'll make more sense if I could actually get this on the screen I want right now. There we go. So let's do a help on range. And you're going to see 91 lines. Click on it. It's as easy as this. Range. Start, stop, step. Almost like a hopscotch, but not yet. Range, start, stop, step. Okay, I get it. Right? Or do we? We'll see. We're going to do a couple things here. I'm going to say my range equals range of 5. Then I'm going to call it my range. You see that it gives me back a 0 stopping at 5. What does that mean when I say 0 stopping at 5? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, stop. I still have 5 objects. I started at 0, I stopped at 5. 5 objects. Now, could you say my range equals range, start at 1, stop at 6? Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. I still have 5 objects. Could you see range, start at 10, and stop at 16? Well, I didn't do Mr., right? My range equals, I'll just call my range, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 5 objects. Oh, I did that wrong. I meant to stop at 15. Demos, baby. We'll get you every time. Do it live. There you go. So now you have your 5 objects. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, stop. Could you say my range equals range, start at 0, stop at 101, count by 2. Yes. Well, how do I get those to print? 4 is designed to iterate through objects or ranges. 4, the statement of 4, each variable in my list or group, right? Just say in my items. So you could actually use for item, just a variable name, in my range, print item. So in theory, when I hit enter, it should start counting by 2 and stop at 101. Cool. As designed, started at 0, stop at 101, count by 2. Started at 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, stopped at 101. Super cool. Range and length are pretty cool together, but we'll get there. So you can think of a for loop as a for each item in my group of items, do this. Then when you're done, when there's no more items, quit. Different from a while loop. You're iterating through a group of objects. Some people call them arrays, could be an array, could be a list, it could be a range, it could be a range of a length of a list of an array. It could be. But in its simplest form, for each item in my group of items, perform this task. Does that make sense? Now, let's talk about range, because we're going to beat up range pretty good. It's important that you understand what range is and how to use it. Zoop, zoop. So check this out. A range equals range of 5. And then I say print a range, calling on my range, and this is what I get. Now, when I call on the list of my range, it turns my range from 0 to stopping at 5 into an actual list of 5 items, starting at 0, stopping at 5, or up to 4. Cool, helpful. I believe there's another one. You could say print, and you could say, what if I said length of A underscore range. So the length of a range is 5 items. Starting at 0, stopping at 5. Starting at 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. Length works on the length of my range as well. Length gives you back a whole number of 5. List literally gives you back a list of integers that's 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Big difference. That's important to know, right? Any questions so far with range? Let's take a look at this one. For each item in my range stopping at 5, because I didn't give it a start, so it's only one integer to stop, I'm going to say print I. And that's what I get. My range stopping at 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, no more, done. Pretty cool? Sorta. For loops become awesome when you master lists. And that's which is coming. So let's say a range equals range of 10. So starting at 0, stopping at 10, 10 items. List a range, print my range. And that's all you get is range 0, stopping at 10. With that one simple command, right? Let's get rid of that. Now I'm going to say start at 10, stop at 16. Okay. Now I get start at 10, stop at 16. But what if I called on a range right now? That's all it is. Well, what if I said list a range? Having a hard time spelling that word today, huh? For real. Then it turns the range into a list of integers, which is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, stop at 16. How does that start, stop, step working out with everybody? How's everybody dealing with that so far?
It's working out good. One thing I will ask is in the previous example, not 2 up, where it says print I and equals.
Yep, this one?
Not, yeah. But instead of printing down, you see how you have it commented out with the star.
Yeah,
if
right
you
here.
go to the other one and run that one, it helps tremendously with what's going to come up for people who haven't done the lab yet.
Oh, what I break?
Because I didn't figure that out for quite a bit, and I did a lot of research on like, how do I get this to work? And it was simply end.
Oh, end, yeah. Well, that's the thing. These things like sep and end that we learn early off, think of them, attempt to use them every script. Use one of them. They'll save your life. It really will, because I mean, here's what happens, right? For 0 in my range of starting at 0, stopping at 5, print 0. Hold on. Print default end is a new line. Don't print the new line. Just put a space. So then it goes 1 space for 2 in my range, or 0 space for 1 in my range, 1 space, and then when it's done, what does it do? It doesn't even do a new line when it's done. It's just over.
Yeah. I wish I would have known that because I spent like an hour looking for how to get it to print in one line.
Well, boom, pro tip. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, print and sep, you could use them along with each item. But now, let me tell you the power of a for statement in a range. If you had a list of machines, like literally you had a list of we'll call them devices. And you had a list of device 1, and it could be host names, it could be anything. It could be host name 2, and so on and so forth, right? Just say you had a ton of them. But you only wanted to do the even numbers. Could you get the length of your list? The length of your list would be how many items you have. Use that as your stop. Start at 0 and then step by 2. So you would do every other one in your list. It's that easy. Does that make sense? Instead of going, oh, I need to dump this list into an Excel spreadsheet and remove every other line and blah, 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 open up Notepad, do all this stuff. You can simply, like, let's cut and paste this a bunch, right? And change this to like 4, it doesn't even matter. And, it's Lenny, that's fine, host name Lenny, right? So you can literally say, okay, well, I need the length of devices equals literally length of devices, right? And now I want my range of my length of devices. So range length of devices equals range. Start at, well, let's start at 0. Let's start at 1. Start at 1. Let's start at 1, and let's go to my length of devices, because that's how long the list is, right? And then I want to count every 2. And then I'll just, let's see, for each item in my range length of devices, print item. What do you think? Do you think this will work?
I think it has a good chance.
It may. I mean, it's live, so anything could happen. So I get 1 and 3. I don't get my host names, but I get 1 and 3. What does that mean?
So DE1 is 0, host AN2 is 1, host 45 is 2, and host Lenny is 3.
Exactly. So not very helpful, right? Print item, not very helpful. So could you just simply say for each item in my length of devices, count by 2, or how would you solve this? We're close. We're close because now we're saying for each, but I did a range of my length of devices, which is an integer representation of these, right? You're going to be faced with that in one of your challenges. Don't worry, you're going to be able to do it. I just wanted to bring it up here. We're going to solve it next week, and we're going to use it in the lab. But you could do a lot of kick butt stuff with for loops. They are my favorite. I don't think I've written a script without a for loop in the last 7 years, easy. I love for loops. For each item in my group of items, perform this. And you could add logic to it. Like check this out. This gets nuts, right? You could say, let's give it a list. Let's go, just call it ML, my list equals, and let's just give it a list of stuff, right? Let's just say A, we'll say B, we'll say 1, we'll say Tim, and we'll say Liam, right? Now watch this. For each item in my list, if item, right, not equal to Tim, print item. What do you think this is going to do? It's going to print everything except Tim, because we used what we've learned from prior lessons, if-else statements. For each item in my list, if A not equal to Tim, true, print A. If B not equal to Tim, true, print B. If 1 not equal to Tim, true, print 1. If Tim not equal to Tim, false. If Liam not equal to Tim, print Liam. Isn't that cool? All the little weird things you could do. So instead of your boss giving you a list of like 10,000 things and him saying, I don't know, Gene may be in there 84 times in the list, I don't want to see that output for Gene. Well, instead of going through your list and removing Gene, leave the list how it is, write logic just to bypass that person or object that you don't need. It's a lot faster, a lot cleaner, because you never messed with the original data. You just wrote logic to move beyond that, whatever your choice is, right? Super cool stuff. What do you think so far? This is range. We haven't hit for loops yet. We got plenty of time for for loops. Even though we hit them a little bit already. Right? Kind of did. For loops, there's a lot to them. A lot of different things you could do with for loops. A lot of fun things, a lot of dangerous things. But the good thing is they usually break on their own. So it's not as dangerous as a while loop. And I'm just going to do this. Okay, cool. Now check this out. You're going to be able to read this just fine. For each element in my range stopping at 5, 0 through 4, right? Print the element ending with a space. This is exactly what we did in the last one. So for 0, print 0 space, for 1 space, for 2 space, for 3 space, for 4, there is a space after it though. So if your output didn't need that last space, we'll learn how to deal with that in lesson 5. It's called stripping. And you could do an R strip to remove the white space at the end. But cool, right? Let's take a look at this one. Another one. For each item in my range, starting at 1, ending at 6, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. Print with end. Same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's still that space at the end. You may not want that, but you can clean it up with strip later on. Don't worry, right? So check this out. I misspelled range. For each element in my range, starting at 5, stopping at -1, which is 0, stopping at -1 before -1, 0, count by -1. Print, count down the element. Print 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, stop. Super cool, right? So now let's talk about strings and for loops. Strings of other strings are like a list. So what do I mean by that? Well, a word is a string when you wrap it in quotes, but each character on itself is a string. They just happen to be in a row. So you can simply say for each character or item, doesn't matter what that is, for each character in my string, print the character, end with a space. For each S in string, for each T, R, I, and G, it's what you get. If you remove this, you'd get to list each letter on, or each letter on each line, because you'd have a hard return for enter or end. A tuple. A tuple is like a list, except it's immutable. We'll talk about the difference between mutable and immutable. Basically, you could change one, can't alter the other one. A lot of databases and different types of data you work with or data structures you work with give you back tuples. We'll talk about it more in detail when we cover them. But for each tup or for each item in my tuple, print the tuple. Well, for each 1, for each 3, for each 5, that's what you get. A tuple is like a list, except it's immutable. We'll talk about that in more detail. So here we have a list of words. Hey ho, let's go for all you Ramones fans, right? For each value, for each item, for each word, for each whatever you want to call this variable. For each value in hey ho, let's go, print value. For hey in hey ho, let's go, print hey. For ho, print ho. For let's go, let's go. That's what you get. This is a dictionary. This is the first time I'm bringing up a dictionary and actually showing you what it is. It's a key value pair, much like an Excel spreadsheet. A1 and A1 is that cell, right? Key and value equals something. This is similar to that, but the key is alpha, the value is 1. The key is beta, the value is 2. This after 4 could be anything. I suggest you use the keyword on what you're trying to go for. If you want to say for each key in my dictionary, use the word key. Because now what you get, when you call on the key, dictionaries give you back the value. So if you say for alpha in Greek, if alpha equals beta, false. Print key alpha, Greek, call on your dictionary and alpha, and you'll get 1. That's right here. For beta in my dictionary, if beta is equal to beta, true, continue, which does not perform this. It stays in the loop. And it says for gamma in my dictionary, if gamma equals to beta, false, print key gamma, Greek gamma, 3, 3. Get it? Dictionaries are a little bit more complex. This is our first dive into them, right? Now we're going to get real tricky. And this is going to be a lot like your individual labs and some of the group labs. You could do nested for loops. Nothing wrong with them. You could do nested if loop or if statements like we did last week. If else, elif, else, right? You can go like this with it and have fun with it, right? Depends on your logic. So let's hypothetically say we have a range, an outer range. Now we have an inner range. For outer in range, starting at 2, stopping at 10. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. For inner in range, starting at 2, stopping at 2. Well, this would start at 2. For 2 in my range, stop at 2. So now we're passing variables to different statements. Totally doable. If not outer, if not 2, divided by inner, which is first one's 2, what happens? Well, print outer equals inner. And then what does that say over there? Let's get the whole thing. Print, so 2 equals 2 multiplied integer outer divided by inner, which is what? Which would be this, would give you this, right? But since this is not true, 2 divided by 2 would be 1 or 0, right? Something like that. Testing for primes. So we get 2 is prime, 3 is prime, 4, well, 4 is 2 times, see, it's just a prime number tester. That's all this is. I haven't tested it up to gigantic numbers, but it should do the trick. But it's not tested for floats, it's just whole prime numbers, right? But this nested, don't worry about the math. Don't get hung up on if this is really a prime number or not, and because it's correct. But don't get hung up on the math. Get hung up on the for each object in my first range, for each object in my second range. Excuse me. You could do nested for loops. You're going to learn more about them this week in your book. You'll be more comfy with them and everything will be fine. Could you share that file? I think playing with them could build confidence. How about you read your book and do the challenges, because these are that. They're the same thing. So if you play with your challenges, you'll in essence do this. But yeah, I'll go ahead and share it. I'll put it in the announcements. But it's really the same thing. But keep in mind that for loops love a group of something, a range, a list, a tuple, a dictionary. They love something to iterate through, an object they could iterate through. While this condition is true, or while this condition is met, perform this. That's a while loop. For each object in my objects, do this. Always think of the push-ups. While I have energy, I'm going to keep doing push-ups. Hey, do 10 push-ups. For each push-up in my 10 push-ups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, stop. Big difference. For loops are awesome. Users in Active Directory, a list of them for each user in my list of users. Computer lists for each computer in my list of computers. For each IP in my list of IPs, for each update in my list of updates, for list. You see how for each computer in my list of computers or for each computer in my list of computers, for each update in my list of updates, check computer if update is installed. If not, install, else keep going. See, you could write a nested for loop to push patches to machines. You could do countless things with this type of logic. Snap. What's snap about? What did I say? What clicked, Steve? What's going on? I need to know. It's important. And time's up, but we're done. I'll stop this is all I wanted to cover, but I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and then we'll talk.